Hey everybody, you're listening to episode 23 of Handy at the Shandy, a Las Vegas podcast, and this is hour one. I'm Boring Jack. I'm joined by Adam the Fraud, Table Games James, and in hour one, we're going to be talking about my most recent trip to Vegas. Unless someone has something to say, James.
No, I was just laughing at the inflection of I'm with Adam the Fraud, Table Games James.
And that's it.
It was good. It was almost game showy, maybe like a PA announcer.
I thought
thing.
someone else was joining us today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought there was going to be a surprise.
The only surprise.
So you just got back from Vegas. I'm excited. I just want you to tell me all about Vegas because I miss it so much.
I've been, normally when you get back from like a Vegas trip, you like maybe ease off on the Vegas content a bit, or you're like not as psyched. I feel like after this one, I was still into it. Maybe it's because I have my poker trip coming up in a scant few weeks, so I'm going to be going back there soon. But I was like, oh, it's time to like binge watch some Vegas Matt, or see if I can like fast forward through any of his live streams to find some parts where he plays Ultimate X or something like that. So I was into it. We're going to start this trip where I start all my trip reports, which is way before the trip starts.
When you're putting
no one cares about.
When you're rubbing your hands in lotion from all the different hotels.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, I've never tried like a Vegas hotel lotion medley before. Maybe I should give that a try.
Is this appropriate for the podcast? Are we leaving this in?
One thing I did is I had a flight out on Friday, and Thursday night I called the airline and tried to get a confirmed seat on an earlier flight. And I thought this was somewhat interesting because Adam on the last show said he no longer wants to gamble with getting the thing he wants. He'll just pay for the room he wants, or the flight he wants, or the seat in first class that he wants, or stuff like that. Whereas I kind of take the opposite approach, where I'll just take the cheapest thing I'm willing to tolerate and then hope I can get the thing I actually wanted for free. And so I kind of did that here, where I had like a 6:30 flight scheduled. And I was like, let's see if I can get on this 3:30 flight instead. And I was able to switch to that one for free, which was nice because it was like, I don't know, if I had booked it, it would have been like $200 more to get on it the old-fashioned way. So
Nice.
The downside was I was seated in the like basically absolute last row of the plane. The only row behind me was like this little half row that said for crew use only, like embroidered into the seats. And there was one poor guy that was in that row despite not being part of the flight crew. And so he was kind of stuck in the dregs of the plane back there.
He did have to help out occasionally, though.
Yeah, he was the one that was serving the biscuits.
He had to clean the bathroom. He's on call.
I thought it was funny because when he got to the baggage claim, he had a Venetian limo driver there waiting for him. So,
Wow.
So that made me feel good. Only the most important of us are in rows 38 and higher.
Yeah,
so.
don't judge people.
But before I got to the baggage claim, I stopped by the liquor store, as I often do, and got a Gatorade and a little bottle of Fernet. And at the liquor store, the woman was like, okay, is that all? If that's going to be all, then here you can tap your card. And on this next screen, the only option will be 20%. Thank you. I was just like, it almost goaded me into, well, there were a lot of options on the screen, including like not tipping. And I almost got, it was just like, I thought it was like a relatively charming way to try to convince you to leave a maximum tip. But I still did not tip at the liquor store.
That's funny.
Unfortunately.
I do like that.
But she almost got me. Then I was like, I will not be gotten by such a paltry trick.
I hate, like, if you go to Starbucks or something, they'll be like, okay, tap your thing. And then it's going to ask you a little question. Like, know what question it's about to ask me. Like,
it's going to ask you a question is the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Right. I wonder, what's my favorite color? There's doing surveys. Like, no, you know what it's going to ask me.
They should put some other random questions there.
That should be how the LVCVA does their surveys going forward. You can get a much more representative.
Right.
But yeah, so I thought that was somewhat clever, but still she got nothing out of me. Sorry. I did take a cab to the Venetian, and the cabbie started talking about like trading stocks and derivatives and like options and stuff. And I was like, there is no way that this is going to go well. But then everything he said was actually like really intelligent. He was talking about how like, yeah, if something like generally trends upward, but it's really volatile, even if you're buying a bunch of call options on it, you can still lose money. And he was like, if you lose 20%, you need 25% to get in gains to get back to where you started. I was like, that's a good point. And he was like, it's not even linear though. If you lose 40%, 50% gains won't get you back to where you started. He says a lot of people don't realize that about investing in options. And I was like, you're saying math that is correct. This is like,
was he hosting his own podcast like while you were in there?
Basically, but
his meter was just like a Bloomberg terminal or something.
Yes, I don't know. I did not expect to get actual sage investing advice from the cab driver. Instead, all he said was just like talking about the pitfalls of trading options. I was like, yep, that is all true and good. So
no disrespect to cab drivers, but yeah, I always want to know, like, whatever, at least in Chicago, I'm like, who are they talking to? Every time I get into a cab in Chicago, they're on the phone for the entire ride. And it's not like it just started. And when I leave, it's not like it's going to end soon. Like, I don't talk to anybody for 10 minutes on the phone, but they talk like the entire shift to somebody. I have no idea who.
It could also be a podcast. Yeah.
It could be. They're calling into a podcast.
You can bet on that. They hit the 3-minute limit and then they hang up and they call again. Yeah. So I was going to ask you guys, do you guys have a Vegas playlist of any sort?
I don't listen to music that often. Shocker. I'm not a fun person besides gambling and improv, because those are the only two things that I do that are fun. So no, I do not have a Vegas playlist. Sorry, I can't contribute.
That was a really self-deprecating way to say no. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, I do have a Vegas playlist, yes. On it is a handful of songs from like Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 13, because I just kind of like the David Holmes soundtrack. It's just, to me, that little kind of funky music that he does is just kind of reminiscent of Vegas for me. Then I've got like some, like some Vegas vacation ones, like Papa Loves Mambo. And like a lot of them aren't even like Vegas specific, but just in like soundtracks that remind me of Vegas a little bit.
Nice.
So yeah, Money Talks by AC/DC's in there. Just kind of, fun songs.
Yeah, mine is mostly pop songs that I hear a lot in Vegas. Like occasionally there'll be ones that remind me of it for some other media related reason. Like you're saying, like there was a vlog that the Coin Show did that had Big Elvis. I think the guys on the Vegas Matt show, they incorrectly called the Harrah's performer Fat Elvis as well. So
there you go.
You're in good company. But Big Elvis was singing Suspicious Minds, an Elvis song. So that's on my playlist because it's like I think of their vlog every time I hear that song.
Right.
And so, but mostly it's just pop songs that if you go to Vegas, you will hear it. And so after I checked in at Palazzo, in the brief walk between the Palazzo lobby and the guest elevators, they were playing the first song on my playlist, the one that has been there the longest, which is Safe and Sound by Capital Cities.
Okay.
And it does the do. We're leaving that in. I just thought it was pretty remarkable that like the first thing I hear and the first time I step into the casino, as soon as I get to Vegas, is the premiere song on the playlist.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. Like when you get into McCarran and it's like if the song when you get off the plane is like a song you vibe with, it's like, okay, this is gonna be a good trip.
So what you're saying is I need to start liking music more and get myself a playlist?
Yeah, I listen to music. It will enrich you in many ways.
There were times where I was sitting with Jack, I remember, at the Chandelier Bar, and he's like, oh man, this song. And I'm like, I did not know there was music playing. I could go through life with no music, and I don't think it would affect my life at all.
That's weird. I think you're weird.
Yeah, it's one of the saddest things I've ever heard.
Have I said this before on the pod that during COVID, I would work out, like we would have virtual workouts with our gym, and I would just do it in complete silence, like 45 minutes. And Kim said that I was a psycho and was afraid I was going to murder her.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. Another, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we haven't heard from her in a while either.
Yeah. Speaking of,
we're
doing a wellness check,
Kim.
So last episode, I kind of described the view I wanted being kind of high up on the little back jutting out part of the Palazzo. I indeed had that, but I was looking north kind of towards the Wynn and Encore and the Wynn Golf Course. It was actually a really nice view. So I didn't ask for anything special when I checked in. I kind of feel like you can kind of tell how quick they're trying to get the transaction over with and how much they want to chat. And it was it was going to be a brief stay at the front desk, so I didn't bother trying to be like, hey, wait a minute, before you put me in a room, could you see it? So I got a great room anyways, though. I was up on like the 43rd floor. I mean, the Wynn Golf Course view is like very nice. to look at, especially like kind of in the morning with the sun coming off the buildings there. It was a good view. But I did not spend all that much time in the room, as it was time to go down to the video poker bar.
Shocker.
And so I basically just sat at the high limit bar at Palazzo waiting for Duffy to get in. And my flight at first was delayed, and it was like, oh, we might actually arrive somewhat closer together. Then his flight got delayed, and then we still ended up with like I had 90 minutes to kill before he even showed up. And video poker wise, I don't think all that much of note happened. I have my little 4-of-a-kind tracker. It has a few paltry little low numbers on it, so I could tell I didn't hit all that much. I think by the time I called it quits at the end of the night, I was down about 1,500, which given that this is just kind of the first night in town, was not exactly where I wanted to be, but that does happen. And I did play for quite a reasonably long session, because I probably started playing there around like 6 and didn't leave to go get dinner until like 10 or so. So it was a hefty 4-hour session, I think.
And for a reminder, or for new listeners, what were you playing? Like the denom and like what?
So
what is
yeah,
it per
I was
pull?
playing $7.50 a hand, which is 30 quarters, because it's Ultimate X 3-line quarter double bonus, in which each
All the
line
words.
Sounds like
on
we're
each of
making
the
stuff
3
up
lines you're betting
based
10
on the novel
credits.
Push by Sapphire. You're just going on a tangent.
But so Duffy did eventually come join me at that bar. And we were joined at one point by listener Nick, who kind of just came up between us and hung out for a little while.
Nice.
At one point, I just reached over and picked up his drink and took a drink out of it. And then as I set it down, I was like, oh, this is yours, wasn't it? Because it was kind of like, I don't want to argue that it was in like some no man's land where it could have been mine. It was very clearly his drink, but I kind of just absentmindedly, because I'm not used to there being a drink off to my left that isn't mine, just kind of reached over and took it. So I think we're going to at some point have to start like a power ranking of things that Drunk Jack has done, to maliciously harm people at the
I thought you were just doing
bar.
a power move because you feel like you're famous now. You're like, oh, that's my drink now. Thanks.
Yeah.
But so at 10 p.m., it was time to go get some Howlin' Ray's hot chicken, and I did stop by the Walgreens to get 1 bear's worth of honey. And I learned that maybe I didn't have to do that, because while they don't advertise that they have honey, and they don't have any out in their little condiment section, it is apparently something you can ask for at Howlin' Ray's.
Did you ask for it?
Well, no, because I was holding a bear full of honey, and the guy was like, oh, you could ask for honey if you wanted some.
Did you say bee honey?
No, I didn't try to clarify, but
Because it was probably honey mustard.
it very well could have been.
Did you like use it all? Like, it was
No,
just a
I
small
used very little of it, unfortunately. So
Did you bring it home?
I did not.
Just left it as
So-
a tip in the room.
Yeah, I kind of squirted it out I wrote thank you on the pillowcase in honey when I left.
It's an easy
for the
clean.
housekeeper. Yeah. So a brief review of Howlin' Ray's, because I had only just tried like a little bite here and there from it before. Last time when I had tried both the medium and the hot that my buddy Ryan had gotten. And this time I did the same. I got one of the tenders medium and the other hot, even though I knew I was like, the hot is too hot. There's no reason to get the hot when you can just get the medium. But when I was there, I was like, well, I at least got to get one of them hot. And I think like eating food that's a little spicier than you want has like somewhat of a similar allure of like gambling a little more than you want.
100%.
You're like, oh, this could be like, a little more exciting. I don't know. That's how I felt in the moment where I was like, oh, we could bump it up a little, we could play a little higher. But the Howlin' Ray's hot chicken is good. It went well with the honey. And at this point, it's like 11 p.m. and I'm done with dinner. And I have not had as much water as I should have had to drink, given how dehydrated you get on the plane. And it's like later than I wanted to stay up, given that it's like my first night in town. But this like always happens on your first night in town, right? Where you're just like running on adrenaline. So I probably got to sleep around like 11:30. And then I woke up the next morning at 5:30. Now this is Saturday morning. And I really wasn't feeling the best,
I
But
wonder why.
I was done sleeping. So I kind of went down to Bar Luca and got my energy drink. Philip managed to roust a Red Bull out of the back of the fridge somewhere. He was like, we ended up with 1 Red Bull at the bar. You can have it if you want it. I was like, this is why you get the connection.
Yeah.
The guy at Bar Luca's, you can get the non-off-brand energy.
Some employee left his Red Bull in there on accident. You got it.
there was a Post-it note stuck to it when he handed it
Right.
to me. So yeah, I dragged Duffy along with me for a morning walk. This time we just walked from Venetian down to Mandalay Bay and back. I try to take a different route on the way down versus the way up. And so if we're going down the east side of the strip on the way there, we'll come up the west side on the way back. But it also means that when you're on that little leg on the south strip between Excalibur and Mandalay Bay, you don't really have a side of the strip to choose from. So we kind of we do the outdoor thing on the way in and the indoor walkways on the way back, just break up the monotony a bit. And man, did Mandalay Bay fall into some of the things we talked about on the last show. Like there's just areas of the casino that have the casino carpeting stuff that are just barren. Like I'm talking like a 20-foot by 30-foot chunk of the casino right near the main lobby that just doesn't have anything in it. And you're like, at any other strip resort, this area would not be empty. And then there's other areas kind of like in the back near the House of Blues that are even larger and emptier, but you can tell that like maybe they'll do something with it at some point. It looks at least a little more purposeful. I don't know. It was very jarring going through there and just seeing like big swaths of space because I just don't think anyone else does that. But we got that walk in. We showered up, came back down to the bar and played a little more video poker before we had that breakfast at Mott 32. And so this is the $68 unlimited dim sum brunch at Mott 32, which is kind of the Chinese fine dining restaurant on the Palazzo side of the resort. And I thought it was really cool to see that there were a lot of people there because I think it opened at like 10 and we had like a 10:45. Maybe it opened at 10:30 and we had a 10:45. But in any case, it filled up pretty quickly after we got in there. And it's a very large dining area. And so it was nice to see that there was just like a lot of people there eating. And then the wait staff were going a mile a minute, just like bustling around, trying to get everything out. In tradition with my last dim sum experience, they didn't get our order exactly right, but it was still better than the last one where, at one point a plate of vegetables came out that we had ordered, but we had already been served it and had eaten it and had been taken away. So we were like, oh, this isn't ours. We're just waiting for dessert. And one of our
classic Guy Fieri experience.
I was going to say, is it very similar? Were they like, no, you ordered this.
Yeah, this is yours.
Stop gaslighting me.
They didn't fight us on it, thankfully. But yeah, then one of our entrees came out after they were like, all right, all your food's done. We're bringing out the dessert. And we're like, we don't need to mention that we're missing an entree because we don't really need it and everything's included. And so if we wanted it, we could just order it kind of thing. And so, but then it just kind of popped out while the dessert was on the way. But other than that, I would say the appetizers and the vegetables, like the little salads or steamed veggies and stuff were really good. The buns and dumplings and like shrimp toast, all that kind of stuff was really good. The vegetables were really good. The entrees were like not great. There was an entree section that had like, wok fried beef with, rice noodles or General Tso's chicken or, just kind of like more heavier things, still portioned down to kind of a smaller size. But it just wasn't that good. It just didn't have that much flavor. The noodles were just kind of oily or the chicken was just kind of bland or what have you. Whereas like the sugar crusted barbecue pork bun was like one of the best things I've ever had at like a dim sum place. It was like a perfect mix between like a regular kind of bao bun with pork, but it was like a little more donutty and breakfasty. And so I was just like, we should have just gotten more of these. Josh and I each got to eat 2. And it was like, well, we could have more of these if we didn't order the rice noodles or whatever. But
so worth the cost though?
It was worth the cost in a Vegas sense where you're like, there are worse ways to spend $70 in Vegas that involve eating. Right. But I would go back there with a group, but probably in like a couple of years is what we were saying. I was like, this is a place where Jack 2 years from now would be like, oh, remember that brunch that was really good? We should do that again kind of thing. But having done it recently, I'm not going to feel the need to go back and pay that amount again. But next up for me was a much needed nap because I was running on like 6 hours of sleep. I took a long walk. I have a big belly full of food. Whereas Josh was getting ready to go start the day in earnest at the High Limit bar. So Josh went off to Palazzo High Limit. I went off to my room to sleep. And I made it back down there, maybe closer to like 12:30 or 1 p.m. so that I could get a start on the drinking and gambling portion of the day. This was my first time being the higher status level. I went to the Players Club and got my little red ruby Venetian
Very
cards.
Nice.
And one thing that's funny is like the little displays that they have above the machine where you like put your card in and it shows you the info and you can like activate your free play, all that kind of stuff. All the screens say your first name and then your tier level. So you look over at Duffy, it says like, hello, Joshua Diamond. You know, we've made jokes that it's like, you know, it's Neil Diamond's lesser known brother or something like that, right?
Those are some good jokes.
It's not a good joke, but one really good joke would be if mine says my given name, John, on it, but I would have been really enthused for mine to just say, hello, Jack Ruby. So I'm going to maybe see if I can get my card changed to say Jack on it so that we get to make that joke work. Leave it in. So the standout highlight for me, at least from this session, was I lost another like $900 pretty quickly. And so I was down about 2,400 on the trip. And I
think that was the first text we got because we hadn't heard from you. And I was like, how's it going? You're like, down a good 2,400. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, it just really wasn't hitting anything. So I had to go and take out another marker. Usually when I get in, I like to take out a $2,000 marker as like two $1,000 tickets with the thought being, oh, well, I'm not going to need to put the second ticket in, right?
Of course not.
We can run the whole trip off that first ticket if things go well. But indeed, that was not to be the case this time. I was in for 4,000 in markers, and I was down about 2,400 when I got dealt 4 to a royal with 3x, 3x, 3x running. Ooh. So if I get it on any line, it'll be $3,000. And then, bam, I got it on the very first line.
Ooh, the best line.
And then no other lines after that. So that was it was a real bummer. But that really turned my mood around where it was like, yes, always go one marker deeper. It's always responsible to take out more credit and just keep gambling. It'll turn around. I'm up $600 on the trip. High fives all around. Go me.
I like how you talked about how you only got it on that first line, because when you're playing multiple lines and you get like, you hit your fourth ace on the first one or anything on that first one, like as soon as that happens, my brain's like, all right, now another one. That's what I want right now. And when you're not looking for something, you're just going through whatever. And you got like, you're dealt 4 hearts. And you press it and you get like 2 of diamonds, 2 of diamonds, 2 of diamonds. Like, and you get the exact same card 3 times. Then I'm pissed. I'm like, that never happens when I need one for the royal.
Right. And so, I honestly did after I got the first one. It was like, because it slows down so much that actually does give you a second to think. It makes a little baloo noise and you get to see, oh my God, a royal flush. And I was like, yes, another. But there was not another to be found there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And basically just after the slot attendant left after paying me, Josh Duffy next to me gets a royal flush, only on a 1x multiplier. So
what a loser.
Nothing particularly special, but we almost had, if she had been a little more slow paying me, we would have almost had a simultaneous royal situation there. We almost had a double handy at not the shandy. And then within that same 40-minute period after I hit my first royal, Duffy hits his royal, I'm dealt an ace and a jack of spades that I hold, and I have 3, 12, 3 running. So I have a 12x multiplier in the middle line, but I'm not really thinking anything of it with 2 to the royal. And I get nothing, royal flush for another $3,000. And that one I kind of jumped up out of my seat and did the like, what the fuck? Kind of like, and everyone was like, what? What happened? And I was just like, I like, that was like way more adrenaline inducing than the 4 to a royal, where you're like, it's not that you're expecting it, but you're like trying to hit it.
Yeah. Right.
Whereas this one was just kind of like, oh, this hand is no different than any other hand until I landed a random $3,000.
Yeah. When you sent that photo, my first instinct was, oh man, I wish it was on that second one.
Well, and then, why wasn't it on the 12X?
And then I was like, oh shit, he was only holding 2. And that was one of his goals for 2026.
Bucket list item crossed off. We got a royal holding a number other than 3 or 4.
God, how many royals have you had
We're
this year?
At 5 on the year on 3 trips. So that's, love that for me, as I guess.
Love that for you.
Yeah. So indeed, like I said in our last tipping discussion, each time the hand pay came, I gave the slot attendant $20, but then I gave the bartender $100 after those 2 big hits. And I feel like that feels kind of cool. You get to like conspicuously put a large $100 bill into the tip jar. So So after being hot off those 2 Royals, I just go and pay off the $4,000 in markers. I was like, I was up, $600 on the trip. Now at this point, I'm up like $3,300 in profits. So I go pay back the markers, and I have a fair bit of cash with me that we're going to walk over to Resorts World with, because it would not be a Jack Vegas trip without a trip to Resorts World. And this was the busiest I think I've ever seen the high limit room at Resorts World.
Good.
Partly because they were doing like a big Baccarat tournament for some of their high-end players, or a blackjack tournament, or one or the other. And so the high limit room was abuzz with just a bunch of gamblers that were either playing in this event or just playing other things while they waited for this event to go. It also was Kentucky Derby Day. And just there seemed to be just more interest in what was going on the TVs because of that. There were like the preliminary races showing stuff. And plus it's like a Saturday, so there's other sports and stuff going on. But the high limit bartenders were swamped, which I always find that really fun, because just like they're very good at what they do, and watching them work is kind of it's a treat to kind of like watch the well-oiled machine. When we sat down, the 2 machines at the very left end of the bar had reserved signs on them. And, I joked, and I think this is a very stale joke, but I indeed joked that they weren't for me. But we sat down right next to them. At some point, the people for whom they were reserved did show up, and the woman next to me was playing Wolf Run Keno. And I was like, well, I'm an expert in Wolf Run Keno. And I was saying, I don't know, I wasn't explaining it to her because I assume she knew it, but I was explaining that like, oh yeah, like you get to keep the multipliers until that little multiplier icon on the screen gets hit by one of the Keno balls, and then it goes away, and then you're on to the next multiplier. And when you run out of multipliers, the bonus is done. And I was maybe explaining it to Josh or whatever. And she was like really excited to learn that that's how it worked. Because she knew you got a number of multipliers, and that when all the multipliers were done, the bonus was done, but didn't know that, that little icon on the screen, you're just hoping it doesn't get to hit. So you get to keep the multiplier for longer. Anyways, so I managed to turn around and be the Wolf Run Keno expert at the bar that day. So that was
at the next Zorkfest, you're going to give that presentation.
Yeah, I'm gonna
the Wolf Run Keno. Yeah,
I'm actually gonna start a competing seminar the same weekend in Vegas at the same time as Zorkfest, except it's all going to be Keno.
Keno, yeah.
What else we got? At Resorts World, I had planned on maybe trying to go to the speakeasy there, the Here Kitty Kitty Vice Den. We ultimately didn't make it, and I ultimately cut that part from the show last week because I know we didn't make it. And Adam and James just made a bunch of like weird furry Hello Kitty jokes. And Josh Duffy got accused of going to like a furry convention. I don't know.
That doesn't sound like us.
That
does sound like Duffy, but that doesn't sound like us.
So you all missed the part where I said I might go to that bar. And indeed, I didn't go to the bar because we were just having too good of a time at the Resorts World High Limit.
You found out that it wasn't a furry.
Yeah, that's why they didn't go.
Right.
They got all dressed up.
Yeah, we were all dressed up with nowhere to go. But we were having a good time at that Resorts World High Limit bar. Ended up losing about $1,500 before I hit a nice regular old 4 of a kind on a 12 times for $750 to cut my losses in half. But a recurring theme kind of throughout the trip is that I didn't really get any premium 4 of a kinds on really any appreciable multiplier. I was severely underquadded for a large portion of the trip, which is kind of a strange complaint to be making after I just hit $6,000 in back-to-back jackpots. But you might see where this is going with respect to some of the video poker that comes from here on out. But at this point, we're hungry, and we hoof it back to Venetian for some Black Tap, the burger restaurant that I mentioned last time. They don't take any reservations or anything, so we just had to get on their waiting list because it was like busy in there. They were like, oh, you can just like kind of mill about in the standing room only section and hope a seat opens at the bar. We're like, no, we'll just get on the list. We'll play a bit at the Bellini bar, which is the center bar on the Venetian side. And so we just played a bit there while waiting for our seats. And then by the time we got seated, which was only like 30 minutes later, like it didn't take all that long for Josh to get a text saying, oh, your reservation's here or whatever. The place was just like empty. It had like cleared out. And I think it was because they were running the Fish concerts that weekend. And so I think there was just a big pre-show crowd, either for what was going on at the Sphere or other stuff. But by the time we got there, we were like, it looks like we could have been seated a bit earlier because there's like no one in here anymore. But Don't have much to report on Black Tap food-wise. It's a burger place. I got a shake. I got fries. I got a burger. Josh got some like chips and queso that as I told him, I'm like, I'll eat like 2, but I don't really think I need the chips and queso to go with the rest of it. He's like, we're getting it. We're getting the chips and queso. Oh, here's another. We'll talk about Duffy a little more. Let's report on his status as a button masher or button slapper vociferous button hitter. He didn't really do it all that much. I did notice that, like, if he was getting your attention and was like, I've got this big hit and these big multipliers, he would hit it with a flourish, you kind of like wind up and smack it down. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, that was somewhat appreciated. I actually one time did the same thing to my buddy Quick Quads Josh. This was a number of years ago at Circa we were playing, and I was drawing for something big. And I hit the machine so hard, it dislodged a bit. Like, it kind of bumped up. And, like, the whole machine went black. And they had to like call someone over to like reset it. And it came back exactly where I was before that draw. So it's at that point, I was actually like a little worried. I was like, oh, I had this big draw and these big multipliers. Is it going to come back? But after that came back, I was like, oh, it's just going to come back every time. Anyways, Duffy did not dislodge any machines by hitting them too hard. And I don't think he's a particular button slapper.
All right, good.
And that's talking Duffy. Anyways, it was a big, after dinner, it was just a little more video poker and sobering up at Bar Luca before going to bed. I maybe had one nightcap cocktail and then switched to waters and club sodas. And I went to bed at a reasonable time. I think I went upstairs right around 10.
Were you doing any double up at Bar Luca?
The main double up started the next morning. And so that's a great transition into what we did Sunday morning, which Duffy likes to play on the multi-line side of the bar. I, in the morning, want to play on the single line side of the bar. And there's like, obviously, 2 seats where they have them next to each other, where the one side of the bar transitions to the other. But there was like a guy sitting right there, even at like 5:45 in the morning when I went down. So I was like, we'll sit on the multi-line side so that when Josh joins me, he can just come on up next to me. And so I actually switched to playing some 3-line dollar, 9-5. Jacks are better with the double up feature. And it just lets you, I kind of was surprised they had double up on multi-line, but it lets you just double up the whole amount. So if you get like 2 pair, 3 of a kind off like holding a pair, which would be like a total of 40 credits, you can just double up that $40 into $80 if you want to. Like it just combines it all into one big sum and then lets you play the double up. And I'm going to explain briefly how the double up works because this was a strange point of contention on the last Crap Vegas episode. So,
I heard that. I wanted to talk to you about it.
If any of you are, Crap Vegas Patreon listeners, I'll explain exactly how the double up feature works. First of all, on these more modern machines, there's no way to accidentally double up. You have to, after having a winning hand, or at least a hand that pays more than 0, like you can bet $15 and quote unquote win 5. And then you can still have the option to double up that 5 if you want to. So, but you have to like reach down on the screen and press the button that says double up. And then it'll come up into the different double up user interface where it'll say, you have 5. Do you want to try to double to 10? Yes, no. And then that's kind of, the confirmation that you want to do what you're doing. And the way it works is it deals out 5 cards from a 52 card deck. The first of which is always the dealer's card. Before you've seen what any of the cards are, it's basically a 50-50 proposition. Either your card's going to be higher than the dealer's and you'll win, it'll be lower than the dealer's and you lose, or it'll be the same rank as the dealer's and it'll be a push. But after you've seen the dealer's card, you kind of know whether you've got a chance or not. Because if they flip over a king, you're like, I can hit one of the 4 aces, maybe one of the 3 remaining kings to tie, but chances are I'm just toast. And so you get to take your pick of the remaining 4 cards, which one is going to be your card. And after you pick it, they show you what all 4 were. And so there is a little bit of like, if I had just gone for the last card, I could have beaten that king. There was an ace there. I just didn't pick it. So there's some room for you to feel bad about it. But
no, do we know, does that matter? Because sometimes on I know there's certain slot machines where it doesn't matter which one you pick. Like you're always destined to get that amount or whatever. But is that not the case here? Like those 4 cards actually do matter?
I think they do matter.
4 cards, yeah.
But I think what matters more than that is understanding that it is fairly dealt from a 52-card deck. And so, like I've talked about with randomness before, if it was predetermined which of the, if it only dealt out 2 cards and one was always going to be the dealer's and the other was always going to be yours, no matter which one you picked, that would still be just as fair, right? But no, I think in this case you are actually picking a face down card and then they're turning them face up, if that type of thing matters to you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think $15 3-line 9-5 jacks or better it's certainly a lower house edge than the Ultimate X I'm usually playing. And it might be even lower. It might be lower variance, even in an absolute sense, even though I'm betting twice as much. So it was still kind of felt like a lower variance morning thing to do, even though I was only doing it because I was up like 2,800 on the trip going into the morning or whatever. Right. So
I love that 3-line dollars. You should have been playing double.
I should have. That is the best game on those machines, I think, is the 3-line dollar double. But I did
9-6, I think, right? They have 9-6.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed that way too much. I was trying to get Duffy to get in on playing some double up, and he was like afraid of it. And even what's more, he was like afraid of me doing it. Like I'd have like $50 in hits from getting, I don't know, whatever combo adds up to 50. And I'd be like, oh, should I double this to 100? He'd be like, no, don't. That's a lot. Like, don't do it. And I'm like, you don't act this way when I put like $50 in odds behind my pass line bet. Like,
right.
It's just, you're just flipping a coin for $50. It's like, are we here to gamble or I don't know, but I don't know. It scared him. And I think some of the people we played with later got a bit scared by it too, even though I was exhorting them to do it.
What was the most you doubled up, and how many times was your record this time?
The biggest I doubled up was a dealt full house. Well, so that was 45 credits per line for $135. I did double to 270 and got it at one point.
Wow.
So, but I never got a 3. Like if I had a smaller sum, like I had 45 and I tried to double to 90 and then go to 180, I think I got very few doubles, and like the only triple double I went for didn't work. And so in some sense I was playing double.
Yeah. And was this like was this all on feel again, or did you come up with some sort of system of like every third one I was going to do it?
No, it says here in my notes, it's also very weird what goes on in my brain deciding to take a win versus double it, is the note I made for myself, because it is just completely based on feel. Like, yeah, occasionally I'll say to myself something like, oh, next time I get like a dealt hand out of the blue that I don't expect, I'm going to double up that dealt hand or something like that. And yeah, and I will do that and I'll stick to it. But like, I'll get it and I'll be about to hit the double up and then I'll just hit play to play the next hand. Be like, okay, didn't double that one. I saved myself. Like I don't even know what I'm going to do sometimes, which makes it more fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
A very weird mental state you put yourself in where you're like, I'll double up once, like again, to go, let's say from $40 to 90. And I'll turn to Josh and say, look, I'm going to take this 90 and try to go to 180. And he'll be like, okay, let's do it. And he'll be watching. I'll have an audience. And the dealer will turn over like a 6. I'll be like, okay, that's pretty good. I can beat a 6. And then I'll pick my card. And then it's also a 6. And then I'll instant just leave the double up feature and go on to the next hand. I'll be like, I'm just taking the push. If I can't beat that 6, that's a sign that I shouldn't try, because I know if I go for it again, the dealer's going to turn over like a queen or something.
Oh yeah, you definitely know that. Absolutely. Yep.
Oh no, you know.
You should bring a single die, like a 6-sided die. And it'd be like, okay, every time I have a winning hand, I'm going to roll it. And if I get a 5, I'm going to double up. And if I don't, then I'm not going to double up. So then you can have a rule, and people will look around and be like, "Who is this maniac?"
It's just like I'm marking things down on my sheet. I'm rolling a die. I'm checking my watch. I'm randomizing all my actions. Yeah. Oh no, this is a brilliant idea, and
so brilliant.
I will consider it. So we did take another jack walk that morning. This time we went up to Fontainebleau, down to the MGM Grand New York intersection, and back up. One thing we did on that walk, I guess the only other kind of thing of note, is we walked through the Flamingo a bit, because, we had mentioned in the last show, like which bar had they redone, and I wanted to take a look at that. And it was the bar kind of in the back, more near their lobby. And that area is just weird. Like you go from the main Flamingo casino floor, if you're kind of on the south side of the building, more near the Cromwell entrance, there's like this weird area with only like video poker machines, and then there's an even weirder little sad corner with only video Keno, and it's just like it's a bunch of tightly packed like upright Game King machines that only offer video Keno in just like this crammed nook with low ceilings. Like I don't know, I thought it was really weird that in like the hotel lobby area near their registration, the ceilings were so low I could reach up and touch it. Like I could just get on my tiptoes and touch the ceiling, which like I found that to be really strange because it's like, yeah, the Flamingo is kind of an old hotel, but they knew back in 1950 that 8-foot ceilings were not high ceilings, right? Like that's not something that has changed over the last N number of years. So it felt very weird walking through that place, but the Bugsy's bar still has all the neon and is as we left it. It was more that lobby bar that got redone and had the forest greens and no pinks that we talked about. The only other place we stopped by on that walk was on our way back up the strip, going through the Crystals Mall near Aria. I stopped at Bar Centro because I know I like their iced tea. And that's associated with Jose Andres because it's right next to that Bazaar Mar there. And so they have like sandwiches and pastries and stuff. But it got me thinking, like, if you wanted a quiet place for some peace and quiet, or maybe if you wanted a good coffee, this could be a good place for both of those because, man, that mall is empty in the mornings. And this place is like open for coffee and tea and stuff in the morning. There was like no one down there. I thought this would be a good time for me to chime in with a bunch of the feedback we got from our last segment where we asked, where can we find some peace and quiet, or where can we find a good cup of coffee? A lot of people wrote in to tell us where to find some good coffee. And so I'm going to share that with you here.
Thank God that they did, because that was such a great segment we did. Where to find.
Where to
and
find.
We gave no good advice.
Well, the one thing we kind of did say that Tim Lawson agreed with is he agreed that going to just a higher end place, like a higher end restaurant, is more likely to have good coffee. And the one he recommended in particular that he thought was a good example of this was La Fontaine at Fontainebleau, which is kind of their high end breakfast place that's only open on the weekends. And he says that the coffee there is very good. Graham from the Cheftimony podcast wrote in. He said for coffee, the Arts District is where it's at. The two good spots, he said, were Bungalow and Vesta are both great options. So it's going to be a little off the beaten path. Like you're not just going to come down from your hotel room and be able to go to the Arts District, unfortunately. But if you're willing to make coffee a destination, that would be a good place to go. And a place that Graham recommended for good coffee that is just down the elevator from me is he said, Jack will be delighted to hear that I've always found the coffee at Bouchon to be excellent. Nice. So thank you, Graham. Danny from Nashville wrote in. He said, regarding where to find the best coffee in Vegas, when I first started going to Vegas regularly, I worked in the specialty coffee industry. So finding good coffee was very important to me. In my opinion, the best coffee in Vegas is at a place downtown called Publicus. Publicus?
I think it's Publicus.
I think it's Public Us.
Public Us is all one word. It's on the corner of Fremont and Maryland Parkway, about a mile down from the Fremont Street Experience. And I looked up where this is. It's only 1 block further than that Ferguson's Motel that I've said that we walk and get coffee at. And so it's not actually a super long walk from the Fremont Street Experience. I would be happy to walk that far. So he continues that they have a world-class coffee bar and roast their own beans, but the coffee is the cherry on the top at this place. It's also an unbelievable breakfast spot. Everything is made from scratch, including the pastries. His morning routine when in Vegas is he goes to Publicus for breakfast and coffee and then heads to the D for some Sigma Derby. It's just a fun, chill start to my day. I can't recommend it enough. Great food, great coffee, great service. Papa John's. He didn't say that last bit, but he said the price is also very reasonable for what you get. A coffee and breakfast is often more than he can finish and will be less than $25. And Danny also has a video poker question that we'll get to when we do some more listener feedback in hour 2.
Shaquille O'Neal.
And then Adam doesn't approve. The last one, the last one about talking about some peace and quiet and a place we hadn't mentioned is Victor R. wrote in to say that kind of that hallway between Bellagio and Vidara, kind of on the way back to the spa tower at Bellagio. He says it has a lot of like small tables and chairs, and they're up against the windows, so you're looking out over the pool while being inside there. And he thought that was a great place to drink your coffee and have some serenity. So thank you, Victor, for that. Back to my trip report. At this point, Duffy gets a text from one Mr. Eric Rosenthal who says he's in town, he just landed, and was wondering what we're up to. And we said, you know where we're going, it's Bouchon. And so he went straight there. We had to walk back to the hotel, shower up, and then head over to the Venetian side and met him at that lobby up on the 10th floor there. And so we asked for a table for 3, and without really any prompting, they went and seated us outside. I thought that was really nice. James, are you okay?
I'm just very interested. I haven't heard your trip report. I'm listening to it like I'm listening to a fucking podcast for the first time. I need to be more engaged.
You were engaged, all right. Leave that in.
Leave it all in. I don't care.
One thing Duffy had warned me of on the walk over is that his wife had been to Bouchon within the past week or two. And she said that the biscuit and gravy that we like so much, it was no longer on the menu. I said, that is preposterous. I guarantee it's on the menu. Your wife is an idiot.
Yeah, you would have gotten it. The newsletter would have said it.
Yeah. No, it was all gone. Plus, old guys wanted our gravy. Our only real option was that steak penne, which is kind of the chicken fried steak. Jesus.
Sorry.
So when the waiter came around, he took our drink orders, and then we said we're also doing 3 steak penne. And so it made everything pretty simple. And I'd had that once before, and it didn't really, I don't know, it didn't wow me. This time I was a lot more impressed by it. I think it just has a very good savory flavor. Maybe I was just a lot hungrier this time. I don't know. But the chicken fried steak at Bouchon is a big winner. At this point, I had work to do. I had to edit the podcast you listened to a couple weeks ago. I'd done a little bit in the morning before we took our walk, but I basically brought my laptop and mouse down to the Palazzo High Limit room and sat there on their little like couch area editing the show while Duffy and Eric played at the bar.
Nice. That's a first.
I don't know. I went over and bothered them from time to time, but I just kind of sat there wading through whatever bullshit we said a couple weeks ago.
Did you get their approval for like certain jokes to cut or leave in?
I wanted, I mean, I don't know. I did when I was like actually uploading and processing and putting in the show notes and stuff. I actually did just kind of stand between them because the machines at that High Limit bar are every other. So there's like a full spot in between these two guys. So I kind of just like butted in on their conversation with my laptop and was like, and now I'm uploading hour 2 to the Libsyn. And so I did do that while ordering a drink. So it was about 1 p.m., I guess, before I started in earnest drinking and playing again. But I knew it was going to be a fair bit of play at Palazzo this day.
And you sober edited our show.
Well, I had a mimosa while editing. Okay. So it was any errors that you heard last week, you can blame on that.
Blame it on the alcohol.
Is that a song? I don't listen to songs.
Where is that coming from? Are you just stuttering now?
Yep, exactly.
So there was no spot for me at the High Limit bar at this point. So I convinced the crew, which the crew was me, who didn't take any convincing, and then Josh and Eric, to move out to Bar Luca to play there. We just had a regular fun old Vegas. I don't know. What do I do when I'm in Vegas? I drink cocktails and I play video poker. And that's what I did from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. at that bar with only a brief break. I took advantage of one bathroom break to run up to the room and drop off my laptop and mouse that was just sitting next to me at the video poker bar. But other than that, just played a good 4 hours of video poker, drank mezcal old fashions, boulevardiers, chocolate martinis. I don't even know what I was on at that point, but we had a lot of drinks. At about 4 p.m., I was like, if we're going to play a pre-dinner crap session over on the Venetian side, now's about the time we're going to have to go do it. And Josh was just like, I just want to play here. And I was like, don't need to tell me twice. So I guess the other thing I'll say about Josh, let's go back to this is a new segment. It's called Talking Duffy.
Talking Duffy.
It's like if you had told a kid that you were going to be like going to some destination later, like we're going to go down and see the cliffs, but while we're there, we'll get ice cream. And so the kid's not really interested in the natural beauty of these rock formations, but he knows that when you go do the cliffs, there's going to be ice cream later. Duffy was kind of like that all morning with the idea of drinking, where I'd be like, I have to edit the podcast a bit. And he's like, but we'll go there and then we'll drink, right? And I'd be like, oh yeah, no, we'll have some cocktails. And he's like, because I really want to play video poker and drink. I was like, oh no, there'll be drinks. Well, there will be drinks to be had. You don't have to worry about that. And then like later on, we'd be at like Bouchon. I'd be like, okay, I'll go up to my room and grab my laptop and I'll meet you guys. And he's like, but you're gonna have a drink, right? And so it kind of that's what it felt like to me. It's just like he had been told there would be drinking happening, and then had to just keep reconfirming that as often.
Is he worried this whole podcast is going dry at some point?
Oh right, Adam's going to be a bad influence. Mm-hmm. But we indeed had plenty of alcoholic beverages. And then we had a 5 p.m. reservation at Cote, the new Korean steakhouse.
Nice.
kind of on Restaurant Row, but more on the Palazzo side there. The waiter explained to us that there were like 3 different ways of ordering there. You can either do everything a la carte. You can either get the Butcher's Feast, which is $88, and it's like a prefix thing with 4 different, small portions of steak and a bunch of different accompaniments. And then there was like the Grand Lux. It certainly wasn't called Grand Lux. But there was
some runny eggs and a coffee.
Oh, that is the one thing I should say. Backing up to Bouchon. Man, I'm not really usually a scrambled egg guy. I generally prefer like a fried egg or an over easy egg. Their soft scramble on the portion of eggs that you get with the country fried steak is incredible. It's like the best scrambled eggs I've ever had.
Nice.
Cut that in. Just put that back in the Bouchon section.
I'll do it when I'm editing. I'll get on it. Yeah.
Can you give me a mimosa first?
So at Cote, they also had like a $250 prefix that was even above and beyond whatever. And so we went for the $88 one, but added on to like the $30 add-on for an ounce of A5 Wagyu, which I think is a pretty reasonable price for
I think that's
for
a
an
good
ounce
deal
of that grade of beef. So, and also I had convinced Duffy to pay for this with the stipulation that I would pick up the tip because that wasn't going to get comped off, but he had enough of his like stated food and beverage credit that he could get the dinner covered. And that was kind of something I was negotiating with him. I was like, does your like actual offer that your host booked you on come with enough F&B to cover this? Because like, if so, you should just pay for dinner. Like, I don't want to be dipping. I don't want to demand to like dip into your discretionary comps that could have been a massage or could have been free play or whatever to get my dinner taken care of. But if you already have it and it's use it or lose it, we might as well not have me paying for stuff. But
when's the last time you've paid for a dinner in Vegas?
Seriously.
I don't know, at Black Tap the night prior. No, I mean, everything else we all just put on our rooms or we paid for one way or another. But this one I was just like, we gotta use up as much as I can get from Duffy here. I thought the Butcher's Feast was a great deal. Compared to the $68 dim sum brunch, the $88 Butcher's Feast was like an incredible value. It came with all sorts of like banchan accompaniments. You got like 2 different types of like kimchi. One was more like a traditional pickled cabbage. The other was like a daikon or pickled radish style kimchi. There were sprouts. There were like leafy green things that I don't know what they are. I don't know. It was just all the traditional stuff and more. Plus, so you have like a little fire pit in the middle of your table like you would at like a Korean barbecue place, except rather than you having to cook the meat, they just stand there and cook the meat for you and come by and flip it and check it to make sure it's like the right doneness and stuff like that. It was like full service Korean steakhouse for if you didn't get cocktails and didn't do these add-ons, which we did get cocktails and we did do the add-ons, but you would have been out there for like $88 before tax and tip, which I think I think that's a wild value. I'd be very happy.
That sounds like a killer deal.
I'd be very excited to bring people back here for like a bigger dinner. After dinner, we did get a craps session in. I knew that I wanted to play some craps and this would be a good time to do it. We found a $25 table on the Palazzo side. We didn't play all that long. It was maybe a 45-minute session and there was a lot of up and down. It started down and there was a lot of almost clawing our way back up, I guess I should say. We were having a great time, though. We were tipping for the dealers. We were just kind of throwing our money around. And this, like, even though things like weren't going all that well at this point, like we were having a lot of mediocre rolls and our money was kind of trending downwards. And this couple came up and we're like, well, how are things going here? How are the vibes? And what they kind of meant was like, are you winning? And I was like, well, the vibes are great. The rolls just haven't been all that good. And there you could tell that they were like, oh, maybe we should have asked how the rolls were going because they felt nervous about coming up there. But Duffy had like one great roll where for himself, he hit like 3 or 4 10s because he was only playing 135 across, which for him is below what you would have expected from his previous crap Vegas play. But he got his 10 up from like 25 to 50, then to 100, then to 200. And I don't think he hit it when it was at 200, but I was hitting come bets all over the place. He was hitting numbers here and there, and we both cashed out small losers. So it was a good crap session, but got to get back to that video poker bar.
Of
course. Do you think you'll get back to a point where you'll be playing longer crap sessions,
Oh, I would have been happy to play that for a lot longer because I think I was down $250 when I left, but I think 120 of that was just money I took from my rack to pay Duffy the money I owed him for like the tip on the dinner and some other stuff. And so I probably only lost $130 of my like $2,000 buy-in on that session.
I just wasn't sure if you were feeling like, man, I got to get back to video poker, or
one of us was feeling that way.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Because I haven't played one of those like really long crap sessions in a little while, and I really want to do that again. Like, obviously you've got to have the bankroll to do it, but lately I've played for 45 minutes or an hour, and I'm like, I guess I should probably get back to video poker. But I think it's about time to get back to a long crap session.
I think the best way to play a longer session is to do it a bit earlier in the afternoon, where you're still taking advantage like of the free drinks at the table. Because by the time we were here, I was just ordering like club sodas and stuff. I was like, I'll probably get one more cocktail at the video poker bar because I know we'll end up there. But I wasn't really drinking. And I think part of the fun of playing craps is kind of, drinking with everyone at the table.
Yeah, I feel like so many of my sessions lately have been like just trying to sneak it in where I can, where it's just not like, it should be the opposite. Like you can sneak in a video poker session, it doesn't matter. But like craps is so time sensitive that I really should not be doing that.
We should make it the main event.
Right.
So Eric comes back. He had just checked in at the Rio, and he had spent a lot of time explaining to us some of the finer parts of the Rio and where you can find some really high quality, really high payback video poker, including Ultimate X in their high limit room, and that they have $3 craps in the off hours that goes up to $5 during the main hours. And so there's some stuff to be said for Rio. I'd be interested in giving that a try at some point, but the issue is it's Rio.
I'll be there in 2 weeks. You can join me.
The main issue, I think, for me is the location. Not that it's Rio, right? Like if it was Rio, but it was like slightly more walkable, I'd pop in.
Right.
But anyways, Eric joined us, and so did our friend Thomas Slade. I'd say friend of the pod, but he's kind of friend of everyone. It'd be kind of presumptuous to claim him in that way, I guess. But friend of everyone, Thomas Slade, came by, and he had his Venetian card in the machine, and it said, "Hello, Thomas Jade," on it, which I, at this point in the night, thought was hilarious. I got to tell him my great Jack Ruby joke as well. I was trying to convince him to do the double up because he was playing some 3-line jacks or better. And I was like, you can double up on the 3-line. He was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. And then Eric Rosenthal was playing a lot of single line. And I'd showed him that, on like the single line side of the bar, you can get all the good dollar pay tables even down at quarters if you play on this machine that he ended up at. And I was like, and it has double up. And he was like, no, that's not really for me. And so I couldn't sell anyone on it. It's like, I don't really get it. I guess I'm a particular weird type of gambler that just like, because that really gets me going. If you can't tell.
I can tell, yeah.
If they had it on Ultimate X, I swear to God. At the time I was buying into the craps table, that afternoon 4 hours of video poker I did between 1 and 5 did not go particularly well. I can look at my little quad tracker sheet and see that I really didn't hit much of anything. And so at the time I was buying in for craps, I was still up on the trip, but I had like a $600 ticket in my pocket. And I didn't have any outstanding markers. So when Duffy and I went up to the craps table, I just took out a marker for $2,000 for that buy-in. And so I ultimately cashed out the $1,750 or whatever I said it was, combined that with my ticket, and plopped that all in the machine. And so I was like, if this ticket in the machine says $2,000, I'm even. And we went below that $2,000 mark as nothing continued to happen on the post-dinner, post-craps, sober it up, Ultimate X session. And so I ended the night maybe down 400 on the trip, which is actually kind of remarkable given that I started the day up like 2,800.
That's a day.
So that was like a $3,000 losing day. And I didn't even I gambled a lot that day. Let's not pretend I didn't. But I also spent a fair portion of the day not gambling, right? We did the walk, we did the breakfast, we did the editing the podcast, we did the long dinner. I don't know. It was kind of a remarkable series of losses. And I think Ultimate X is more high variance than I gave it credit for. Like in my head, it was like high variance because, well, I knew it was very high variance, but I feel like I still would be like, I'd lose 2,000, but then I'd win 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd lose another 800, and then I'd win like 600. And so like even big, and so it's like, yeah, I'm still down a fair bit on that net, but like my big losing sessions were still punctuated with these large random out of nowhere hits, kind of like that Royal I hit, except for, more quads, right? Oh, here's 4 aces on an 8X for 1,600. That puts a dent in my losses. We didn't put any dents in the losses on Sunday.
I mean, that reminds me of the first day of the F1 trip. Like for me, when I was like, I'm down $3,000, and you're like, $3,000 already, and it was just one of those days where I hit absolutely nothing, and it's like great, and then you have the trip, like the birthday trip, where I couldn't lose,
right.
And that's the fun part about gambling.
Yep, and I was thinking about you in particular,
thank you, Jack.
Jealously. I was like, it seems kind of silly to be up $2,800 and then lose 3,200 of it in one day when you could have just locked up a nice win. But there was no reason it couldn't have gone the James way, where I just hit another Royal or I hit something stupid for a ton of money. Like I was like, if James can do it, surely I can hit some massive hit here just for fun. But it ended up being a losing day, and it turned it into a $400 losing trip. But I woke up the next morning being like, I'm only down 400. What I need to do is get even or get even worse. And so I allocated myself.
I was going to say, Jack, this is not like you. Usually that last day, you're no gambling.
So for me, it was because the margin was so slim relative to the wide swings I had already experienced. I was like, I'm only down 400. I can give myself a $400 budget with which to gamble on this last day and not feel bad if I lose it all. Right. Given that at the worst part of the trip, I was down 2,400.
Right.
And I got dang close to getting up back to the even mark where I'd be able to pay back that marker I took at the craft table the previous night. Like I was like, at one point I was like, I'm only a 4 of a kind and a double up away from.
So you're only $250. So you weren't that close.
No, but then I got to a point where I was a 4 of a kind without a double up away from hitting it. And so I was like, I just need like a good double on like a full house, or just any 4 of a kind with no double up, and I'll get there. So I did get within like $125 at one point. Ultimately, that ticket that needed to look like 2,000 looked like 1,200, and I cashed it out and went to pack up my stuff.
Did you pay off the marker like partially, or did you just say, screw it all?
I just left it. Yeah. Because to pay back a marker partially, they have to then issue you another marker for 1,000, and I'd pay back 1,000. I was like, I'm already a small potatoes marker player compared to what I think a lot of people that are on credit have. I mean, I know for a fact I have the minimum credit line you can get there, right? Which is $5,000.
Now, see, I think you should have taken a $3,000 marker that next morning, took all that cash home, put it in a 30-day CD, made a little bit of money off of that, but.
And I should have done that at every casino in Vegas.
Exactly.
That I have a marker line at. Yeah.
Exactly. Follow me for more personal finance tips.
It's James, the cab driver, starting a new podcast. The one thing that I should have invested $3,000 into is a Panda Express franchise, because let me tell you, I talked about this on the last episode. I can't get enough of how much better the Panda Express at the D gates is than any of the other food options in that entire concourse.
You have a problem, I think.
So many problems.
I was in line at the Panda Express at 10:30 in the morning, and it was like the line was snaking around past the stanchions, like down, like along the concourse towards the California Pizza Kitchen. Like, people want that Panda Express at 10:30.
It was like a new iPhone release or something.
Yeah,
no, it's just
exactly.
Panda Express.
It was like there were like a bunch of like badged airport employees in the line where you're like, yeah, they know where the good food's at. They work here.
Fresh orange chicken. Yeah.
I would pay $3,000 for the orange chicken, but also it strikes me as kind of a damning indictment of how poor a lot of the other options. It's like, do I want to go to Port of Subs and get like a cold sandwich, or do I want some fresh hot orange chicken?
Some combos from Hudson News.
Go to handy.vegas/Panda Express for 10% off.
That's all the Patreon is. People just giving us money so you can invest in a Panda Express franchise.
And that's it. That's talking Vegas.
I'm glad you had a good time. I mean, hey, you gambled a lot, only ended up down $800. I would take that every single trip.
And I told Josh going to the trip, like, I was like, I kind of have a feeling that this is going to be one of those just kind of get kicked in the teeth, lose $4,000 to $5,000 trips, because that's just, I'd had so many either winning, break even, or slightly losing trips in the last 3 or 4, I guess, buoyed by all these royals that I keep hitting, that I was like, this one's going to be really bad. And when I pretty early Saturday morning was already taking up my second $2,000 marker, I was like, yep, I knew it. I could see where this was going.
I knew it.
And then I just smashed a couple $3,000 royals to make it a relatively good trip from my perspective.
When you were some good people too.
Yeah, you got to see a lot of good people. When you sent that second royal, I was near Kim and I looked at it and I went, what the fuck?
That's exactly what I said when I hit it. Yeah. But yeah, I'm also doing some fudgy accounting, right? Where it's like, yeah, I said I'm down $800, but like 100 of that was that crisp bill that I gave to the bartender that I was bragging about earlier. And 40 of that was what I gave to the slot attendant. So it's like the tip money that comes out of petty cash or paying Josh back for the various meals that I owed him money for. It's like, so I was probably down gambling wise less than the 800 in some sense, but
I don't count any of that stuff. Maybe I should. I'm usually pretty particular of what the money goes in to the machine, what comes out. And then all the rest of it, I just say, well, that's just my spending money. That doesn't count.
See, for me, it's about the cash money in my wallet. So I have a number of markers and $100 bills. And at some point, I'm going to use those $100 bills to pay off markers. And then it's like, how much do I owe the casino at the end of the trip? At the end of it, I had $1,200 in bills and I owed them $2,000. And so that's kind of the way I counted it, even though it's like, a lot of that money got misappropriated. I think that is another trip in the books. The next one I've got, it's actually like in 3 weeks for the World Series of Poker. Ooh. And I'm excited to have that be kind of a less gambling trip, more hanging out. Still going to do a fair bit of Ultimate X. Going to play some poker this time. Already looking forward to it. Usually after coming back from a trip, I'm not so much, but this one I've got it circled on my calendar. So getting excited.
I'm sure we'll talk about your planning for that in the next episode.
Absolutely.
All right.
Love it.
In hour 2, we got a ton of listener feedback and questions that we're going to
you all delivered.
We are going to be plowing through it in hour 2. We had so much of it that I had to put some of it in as a segment in my trip report.
Right.
Anyways, we'll talk to you shortly in hour 2. I'm Boring Jack. For Adam the Fraud and Table Games James. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Later.